everyone, I'm Kelly Yang and I'm the author of Front Desk, and I'm here for Global Read Aloud to answer more of your questions. These are all your questions from week 3. We had a lot of great questions and I'm so excited to answer them. I hope you guys are enjoying Global Read Aloud. I certainly am. First question is, why did you decide to have Jason like Mia? This is from the Epworth Elementary School in Epworth, Iowa. Great question. First of all, Jason did not always like Mia. There have been previous drafts of the book where Jason did not like Mia at all and stayed pretty consistently in that camp for the whole book. And so what I wanted as a writer was to challenge the two of them, was to get them to interact more and put them in that situation where they were like kind of interested in each other, but not really, but also frustrated with each other, but also, you know, trying to figure out if they could be friends, if there were things about each other that they could see and see the positive side of. And really, in order to really test the two of them, I created the situation where Jason liked Mia. Now, a lot of people have asked me, did the real Jason ever really like me? And the answer is no! I've never had a son of a motel owner that we worked for. First of all, we worked for 3 different motels, so there were 3 different owners, and I think 2 of them had kids my age. And I've never had the situation where the son of the motel owner liked me. I did go to school with one of them, but to my knowledge, he did not like me. It's possible that he secretly liked me and just never told me, but I thankfully did not have that situation happen to me. But I always wondered about it for Mia because, you know, it is a tough situation when a boy likes you that you don't really like back, right? You're like, what do I do? What do I say? You know, how do I? And of course, Mia is very blunt, right? She's very blunt about her feelings towards Jason. And in that sense, you know, you can feel Jason's sadness in that moment, in that scene as well, but you can also feel the unbelievable anger and frustration and sadness and awkwardness that Mia was going through. So it was a really interesting situation as a writer, and often as writers we are hard on our characters. I mean, that is part of being a writer, is that we often can't be darling, you know, we can't be precious with our characters. They are our little darlings, but we also have to put them in tough situations as you get into in life. Another question. Sorry. I have a bit of a cough from being on tour. Why didn't you have chapter titles? This is from the North Valley Academy in New Mexico. Great question. I struggle a lot with titles. In general, I struggle a lot with titles. I think Front Desk was actually supposed to be called something else, but we just didn't have a title for it, so we called it Front Desk as a working title, but the title just stuck with us, so we just kept calling it Front Desk. And in other books that I've written, it's always been really simple 1 or 2 word titles, because I am really bad at coming up with titles, you guys. And I'm even bad with coming up with chapter numbers. I don't even number chapters when I write. I literally just write chapter, and then I kind of start writing the next chapter, because I know what's gonna happen when I revise is I'm gonna add new chapters, or I'm going to rearrange chapters. So if I number them as I'm writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the numbers are always going to get messed up, and I'll have to go back and delete and renumber. So to save myself time, I don't even number them. And so I definitely don't do chapter titles. I wish I were better at titles and chapter numbers in general, because then I could organize it better in my head, but I'm just not. But it is really fun to read your chapter titles that you've created for me. Okay, another question. Was it challenging to relive the scary parts of your childhood through writing and sharing it with the world? Wow, such a great question from Richmond, Canada, the McNeely Elementary School. Oh my gosh, it was. It was really scary. I was super worried about sharing it with the world, because you guys got to remember, this was a secret that I kept for so long. I never told anybody growing up where I lived. I never told them that I lived in a motel. I never told any of my friends, which meant that I couldn't have a single birthday party, and I didn't have a single play date growing up. Like my entire childhood, I did not have a single play date, which is like amazing. It's crazy. I think I just kept it a secret because I didn't want anybody to think I was different. And looking back, you know, I might have exaggerated that concern in my head. I might have really amplified it in my head. In other words, even if I told somebody, I don't think they really would have judged me. But as a kid, I was really worried about this. So imagine when I finally decided to take that leap, I didn't just share the fact that I lived in a motel with a couple of close friends. I shared it with the world. And so that was really, really intimidating for me. And I remember crossing my fingers and just being like, oh God, I hope the world doesn't laugh at me. Oh God. You know, a lot of authors want, when they publish a book, they want to win awards. They want their book made into a movie. I was just like, oh God, I hope no one laughs at me. And to some extent, I still have that fear. But yeah, that was probably the scariest part. The scary part was not in writing it. I loved writing it. I loved every second of writing it. I would spend hours on the scenes and just, sometimes I'd cry when I was writing them. And I was just, you know, I was kind of a mess. But I did not have any fear in the writing process. It was in the final emailing it to my editor, pushing send, that moment that it was kind of like, ah. And the thing is, that doesn't go away. Like, I still feel that when I write. I still definitely feel a little bit scared sending it to people. But great question. All right, we have time for a couple more questions. If you could choose one thing to change about your childhood, what would it be? And this is from the Brookwood Elementary School in Leawood, Kansas. It would definitely be the fact that I kept where I lived a secret. I don't know why I did that. I was so scared. And so, you know, if I could go back in time, I think I would tell people, you know, because now I've told people through front desk, and guess what? No one even laughed at me. I mean, I'm still waiting for people to laugh at me, and like literally no one has laughed. So I think that I probably exaggerated how scary it would be in my head. You know, I probably convinced myself that it was a really big deal, when in fact, I think that if I had told some friends, I would have had a more fun childhood. So that's the one thing I would change. Great question. Wow, good question. Here we go. How do you develop your central idea before you start writing? This is from the Baying Elementary School in Houston, Texas. This is a great question, and I strongly urge you guys to plan, to develop your central idea before you start writing. Because planning before you write is sort of like having a good roadmap of where you're going. And the way I plan when I write and the way I develop an idea before I start writing is by closing my eyes and sort of playing the story in my head like it's a movie. I'll literally just sit there for hours and I'll like play it in my head. And I'll close my eyes and I'll play it as though I've written it. Kind of like, okay, what is the next scene gonna look like? What is the next scene gonna look like? What's the next scene gonna look like? What's gonna happen after that? Why is this gonna happen? And after I sit and I meditate with the idea for a long time, and usually sometimes it'll take me weeks to do that, then I write the whole thing down of exactly what's gonna happen. So I don't write the story, I write the story of the story, basically. And once I've come up with what we call a synopsis, which is basically a detailed plan of exactly what's going to happen, then I start writing. So, great question. Okay, another question. What would you be if you were not an author? From the Silver Strand Elementary School in Coronado, California. And by the way, I've been to Coronado, California. I love Coronado, California. It's beautiful. I would definitely still be a writing teacher. I was a writing teacher for 13 years. I started a program here in Asia called the Kellyanne Project, where I teach kids how to write and how to debate so they can find their voice. And I loved it. I loved it so much. I enjoyed it so immensely, and sometimes I miss it. So I would absolutely be a writing teacher. I think teachers are awesome. I had so much fun. And I don't think I could be the author that I am today if I didn't have that experience. How did it feel not to tell others you were running a motel? From the Beckett farm school in Ontario, Canada. And the answer is, it was not fun to not tell anyone, because basically it meant that you were on edge for the entire time that you were keeping this a secret, right? I was super worried if anybody ever asked me where I lived. I would have to make something up. I would have to constantly cross my fingers and hope that none of my classmates ever came into the front office and into the, to the front desk. I was really worried that they would call me and hear me say something like, "Hi, thanks for calling Cal Vista," and be like, "Huh?" So I was really worried about that, and that anxiety was a huge part of my childhood. So in, retrospect, I think I really should have just told people. Okay, final question. Oh, this is a great question. How do you fight discrimination? From the Washington School in Melbourne, New Jersey. How do you fight discrimination? You fight discrimination by speaking up. Every time you see somebody being discriminated against, somebody is saying something that they shouldn't be saying that's kind of offensive or inappropriate or just mean, you should say something about it. You can say something to the person who's doing it, tell them, cut it out, that was not cool, that was not nice, I don't think you should say that, I think you should apologize. Go tell a teacher, you should say something to the person that it's happening to. If it's happening to you, then definitely tell the person that's doing it to you to stop it, that that's not okay, and go and tell an adult. The only way we're going to be able to fight discrimination is if we work together and we're not passive bystanders when we see it happen. And I know it's really hard, and I know that sometimes, you worry, oh, if I say something, then am I making a bigger deal than it is? Is it going to be awkward afterwards? I've had that experience where I sometimes think maybe it's just better to laugh it off. I don't know. Like as a kid, I often thought that. And the answer is no, it's not better to laugh it off, in my experience anyway, because what happens later is you kind of think, why did I not say anything? And then you're filled with regret. So I think the best thing to do, and it takes a lot of courage, which is why we all have to do this, even if no one is discriminating against you, if you see it happening to someone else, you have to do something about it too, right? You are also a party in this. And if we don't say anything when we see it happening to someone else, this is also on us. So we really have to together do something to fight discrimination. It's as simple as speaking up, I think. So great question. This has been an amazing question and answer session. I'm really, really happy that you guys asked me so many awesome questions. Please keep asking them. Please keep emailing me, and we'll put next week's questions into this tip jar. Thanks so much for reading and for watching and for listening and asking all your awesome questions. I hope you guys have an amazing next week for Global Read Aloud. Thank you so much. Bye.